I'm Michael Kim, CEO at Radio Korea, airing on KMPC in Los Angeles and broadcasting for the Korean American community since 1989. Now, the purpose of this video is to number one, give an official response to what happened on our airwaves on November 3rd, and number two, to talk about David Kim, who started this awareness campaign. So, on November 3rd, on one of our talk shows, one of the hosts expressed religious opinions on homosexuality that included factual inaccuracies. Specifically, the statement that gay people began the spread of AIDS is incorrect. HIV is a virus that can affect anyone regardless of sexual orientation. The host's suggestion that counseling can change someone's sexual orientation also does not align with current medical understanding. Major health organizations have stated that such conversion efforts are ineffective and can be psychologically harmful. Radio Korea does not endorse or share the personal opinions expressed by individual hosts on our talk programs. While we respect the right of our hosts to express personal views, we expect all discussions to be conducted responsibly and with mutual respect. Radio Korea also welcomes members of the LGBT community to share their perspectives and help foster understanding through open conversation. We remain committed to dialogue and to serving all members of our community with fairness, respect, and integrity. We appreciate the concerns raised and recognize the importance of addressing misinformation. That is our official statement. Now, I want to give a little more context to all of this because Radio Korea is being unfairly targeted and condemned as an anti-gay organization, mainly due to the efforts of one person in particular, David Kim. David Kim, a gay Korean American attorney and three-time congressional candidate, and a former director at Radio Korea, made a social media post to publicly condemn the host and Radio Korea and for us to apologize and correct the misinformation. Additionally, the post by David Kim and other Korean American influencers was shared many times and many comments were made, and Radio Korea received quite a few angry messages and phone calls as well. While I acknowledge the pain felt by David Kim and the other members of the gay community, I don't think Radio Korea needs to apologize for what was said any more than Netflix should apologize for what Dave Chappelle says, or any more than Instagram or TikTok should apologize for what people say on their platforms. Also, the statements made by the host were not part of a Radio Korea news report. They were said on a talk show. We did, however, correct the misinformation. Now, that being said, I was very disappointed to see David Kim's post. I've known him for nearly 6 years now. I was the first person to interview him in February 2020 when he ran for Congress the first time, and throughout the years I've been a supporter of his. I referred him to KPFK so he could do his own radio show in 2021. Later that year, I asked him to work at Radio Korea to help make positive changes, and he worked all of 2022 here as a director of community affairs while also running for Congress a second time. We did some good work together and spent a lot of time together and had a lot of deep conversations and confided in one another quite a bit. In 2024, when he ran a third time, Radio Korea supported him, but after he lost again, he was very disappointed, and he talked to me about wanting to do a show to educate members of the Korean American community about politics. And it's not easy to just let someone do a show because they want to do a show, but I wanted to make it happen for him. But also, it became more difficult because he also wanted to bring his own co-host. And there were also existing people at Radio Korea that David did not want to work with, so I had to move things around and arrange things to his satisfaction while making it seem like it was completely my decision, even though it meant I would have to take criticism from some unhappy people. But I did it for David because I believed in him and what he wanted to do, and he started doing the show earlier this year. Well, after hosting just 6 episodes, something happened between him and his co-host, and David decided the best way to deal with it was to just quit the show. Just like that. After all the inconvenience and trouble I went through to give him what he wanted. He just walked away like it was nothing. And frankly, it was at this point that I lost my faith in David as a leader, but I was okay to still be his friend. Also, I should add that when he lobbied for a relative of his to get a job at Radio Korea, we gave their resume priority because we trusted David and eventually hired that person. Also, whenever there was something about Radio Korea's reporting or anything else he was unhappy about, or wanted to edit something out of an interview or turn comments off, etc., he would reach out to me directly and I would try to resolve it ASAP. Looking back now, I didn't realize how much I'd done to be supportive of David Kim and to try and please him. So to see him suddenly calling out Radio Korea and condemning us publicly was really unexpected and bizarre, but I know the reason why. After the incident on the radio, which took place during the 10 a.m. hour, he texted me some messages at the 12 p.m. hour. I did not respond for reasons I'll explain in a moment. He then texted me more messages at the 2 p.m. hour, which I also did not respond to. After about 4 hours of silence from me, at the 4 p.m. hour, he made the public post condemning the host and Radio Korea. So these 4 hours of silence ended nearly 6 years of trust. As to the reason for my silence, David knows I was at a hospital in Bangkok, Thailand. So he knew he was texting me at 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. my time before going public at 7 a.m. He could have considered that maybe I was sleeping, or that the reason I was at a hospital was because of health issues and I couldn't respond. Perhaps give me some benefit of the doubt. Instead, he decides that I'm ignoring him, so he just publicly condemns Radio Korea. After all these years, the support Radio Korea has given him, the support I personally gave him, even the support from other Radio Korea members who donated or even volunteered for him, he dishonestly tried to portray Radio Korea as being an anti-gay organization. And by the way, my phone was not with me in Thailand. My phone was in Los Angeles. Now, I understand his anger and hurt at what was said, but it didn't have to come to this, and it could have been dealt with outside of American social media. David also wanted me to fire the host, a Korean immigrant who finds community through her church, and what the host said reflects an outdated and ignorant view, not malice. Ignorance can be corrected through dialogue, not just punishment. Malcolm X said, "Don't be in a hurry to condemn others because they don't do what you do or think the way that you think. There was a time when you didn't know what you do now." And that's the approach I like to take, is conversation before condemnation. Firing the host would silence them on the radio, but it wouldn't change them or the many others who still think that way. It is also worth noting that David's own father is a pastor. In the 2022 documentary Chosen, which prominently features David's 2020 campaign, the things you hear his father say about gay people is much harsher than anything that has ever been said on Radio Korea. So what if our host was influenced by David's father, or another pastor like David's father? David's father has preached to hundreds, if not thousands, of Korean Americans throughout the decades. Has David publicly condemned and disowned his own father or anyone who still associates with him? Or is he going after a safer target? And if so, what kind of person is David Kim? And is this the kind of person we want in Congress? I also find it interesting that Korean American activists who use much larger platforms and have worked for or done business with much larger global American media companies that by their own standards have done thousands of times more damage than what was said by our host, are so quick to condemn a local organization that serves the Korean immigrant community but have no words for these multi-billion-dollar conglomerates that are at least 100,000 times larger than Radio Korea. These are activists who still align themselves with political parties and politicians that they themselves believe are funding genocide and mass murder of children. For example, at the same time David Kim was calling for an apology from Radio Korea, he was posting Instagram stories praising Nancy Pelosi, who told activists protesting against genocide in Gaza to go back to China. By the way, David Kim also boycotted Meta earlier this year for valid reasons and was off Facebook and Instagram. But he eventually returned and is now using Instagram to condemn Radio Korea while praising actual villains. Additionally, one of the influencers who made 2 videos condemning us, including attacking the personal appearance of our host, and even calling me out and saying that my sins are public, leaves out an important fact. In 2023, when he and his gay friends were victims of a hate crime in Koreatown, Radio Korea was the only Korean media outlet that reached out to him to listen and to share his story and to highlight what it's like to be gay and Korean in our community. Also, one of the collaborators on David's post, another Korean American influencer, who also made a disparaging comment about me on TikTok, has himself made misinformed, racist, and Islamophobic comments on a Radio Korea program. David Kim also told me last year that this influencer, while good-intentioned, also puts out legal misinformation in their content. Has he been asked to publicly apologize? And should Radio Korea apologize for him as well? So, be careful who you choose to believe and follow. Just because they support the same politicians you like, or sound outraged while saying the right things, or film themselves doing good deeds, doesn't mean they're actually good people with good intentions. Koreatown is only about 3 miles from Hollywood, and some people just like to perform. Since 1989, Radio Korea has stood with the Korean American community through riots, natural disasters, recessions, pandemics. For 36 years, we've provided information, connection, and support for generations of Korean Americans. I've only led this institution for 3 of those years, but I take its legacy seriously. My responsibility is to protect what was built before me and ensure that Radio Korea continues serving this community long after today's momentary controversies disappear. And to those who attack their own community's institutions rather than engage with them, that is your choice. But understand that Radio Korea has faced far greater challenges than online outrage and will still be here tomorrow serving our community.